I'm Cathy Thomas. Who doesn't love apple pie? It's an all-American favorite, right? This one shows off some surprises. There's sour cream in the mix and a crunchy, sweet topping. Let's start with the crust. There's some surprises there, too. We want to move quickly because we want to keep everything cold. Get a little flour on the rolling pin, and then we're going to turn to the food processor. So I've got the metal blade in here, all-purpose flour, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of sugar. If I'm using salted butter, then I don't put salt in here. Now we want really cold butter, cut into several pieces. Pulsing seems to work really well. And we want our butter to be the sizes of peas. With the motor running, we're going to add ice water. And if it's not coming together, I add a couple of drops more water. And I'm happy. When you want to dump something out and you don't want the blade to drop, take your middle finger, put it up in the center, and turn it over. I'm going to bring it together, and we're not going to fuss with it much because we don't want it to get warm. Let's take a look at how this looks with the pan. Looking good. Here's the surprising part. I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to transfer it over to the pan, and I'm going to ease it in. I'm going to take the other one, and in it goes. I'm just going to bring it back over, and I'm going to push the edges together. Now, why did I cut it in half? Because this way it seems to ease into the pan better, and after I bake it, it won't pull away. Okay, now I'm going to cut so that there's a little bit for me to turn under, and I'm going to make a ridge that is just above the edge of the pan. And your goal is to make it the same thickness all the way around. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and crimp, pinch with one hand, and use the other finger as a spacer. Do you notice how this makes a tall crimp? Because we're going to have lots of apples here, so we want it to form a higher ridge. Now, if you want to double crimp it, you just go around and pinch on the inside like this. The tines of fork, both on the sides and on the bottom. So now the cream cheese mixture. Got the food processor fitted with the metal blade, granulated sugar, sour cream, pinch of salt, 1 large egg, all-purpose flour, vanilla extract. Here's a trick that I learned after making this pie a gazillion times. I'm going to slice the apples right into the sour cream mixture. I've got Granny Smith apples, and I need to peel and core them. I think the easiest way is on the stem end and on the blossom end, point your knife down and take them off. And then holding your knife in a stable position, move the apple. Now, my grandmother said that if you broke this ribbon of apple peel, like I just did, then you're going to have another baby. I think my grandmother was a little misinformed, but I think it made for a fun story. I like to use Granny Smith apples because they have just the right amount of tartness. Out come the cores. Now, you can do it 2 ways. You can slide your knife in like this, and take the core out like so, but it's easier to cut them into quarters and just take the core out like so, cutting deeper in the middle. Now I'm going to lay these in the food processor so as much as I can, they're sitting on their sides. Okay, it's loaded up. We want all of the slices to have a little of that sour cream mixture on them. Into our crust, we've dumped that apple sour cream mixture, and I'm arranging it so that it's mounted towards the middle. And it's ready to go into a preheated 400-degree oven. There's a lower middle and an upper middle. This is going on the lower middle, but first it's going to go on a rimmed baking sheet. In the meantime, we're going to make that beautiful brown sugar topping that's going to go on the top. I've got light brown sugar, all-purpose flour, and cold butter cut into 4 pieces. Now the trick here is you want it to be crumbly. And if you just turn it on and let it go, it's going to turn into a paste or a dough. You don't want that. See, there's some little pieces of butter in there. That's what you want. This beauty's out of the oven. On goes the topping, and remember that trick about putting your finger up and holding the blade in place? I'm just gonna smoosh this down. Pie shield. It's gonna go on the edge to prevent over browning. This is gonna go back in the oven for about 20 minutes. Here's a tip. After it bakes for another 22 minutes, if I'm not happy there's not enough browning on it, I'll turn the broiler on for a minute. Keep an eye on it, and make sure it doesn't burn, just so it gets a nice golden brown. It's not always necessary, but it may be today. This beautiful beast is out of the oven, and isn't it gorgeous? I like to serve it warm with a big scoop of ice cream. I like vanilla. My husband says, oh, let's have chocolate. Either way, it's delicious. Here's a quick tip from Melissa's Produce. Celery has much more culinary potential than we often give it credit for. The crunch and rather neutral flavor make it a delicious candidate for a salad. Team it with dates, almonds, and Parmesan cheese, plus a simple vinaigrette, and you have a delicious, noisy-to-eat dish. So let's start it with a little talk about celery, because I keep it in 2 containers in the refrigerator. In one, I have the larger stalks in water, and these will last for a long, long time, probably 2 weeks. I put the more fragile parts in a separate container. These are the more delicate parts of the celery that have the leaves attached, and I use these up first because they'll only last for about a week in the refrigerator. And they're really, all of those beautiful celery leaves have a great flavor and a nice texture and go beautifully in a salad like this. Take off the excess moisture. We're gonna cut this up, leaves and stalks. These big stalks, I'm just gonna cut in half lengthwise and then simply slice them about 1/4 inch thick slices. These are beautiful measurable dates. You can buy them pitted, of course, but if you're like me and buy them with the pit, I just cut around that pit to cut it into quarters, and then cut it crosswise to dice it up. It kind of all sticks together, and if you're doing a lot of dates, chopping them, you can get your knife warm in hot water, and then it doesn't stick. Next, we want some toasted almonds. And I toasted these off earlier in a 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes. When I chop nuts, I use this cutting board that has raised edges, so fewer escape out the side. And we're just gonna do a rough chop on these. Give this a quick toss. I'm using a Meyer lemon that's a cross between a sour lemon and mandarin, so it has the beautiful smell of an orange. Using my fingers as a strainer, I want to add a couple of good tablespoons, about 1/4 cup of olive oil, some dried red pepper flakes, and give it a good toss. Some kosher salt, a little bit of pepper, and last but not least, we need some cheese. And I have some Parmigiano Reggiano here. You can see I like cheese. I think you need that kind of richness of the cheese to balance out the salad. And look at how pretty that is and delicious. The produce aisles are filled with so many delicious choices. Try something new, have an adventure.